Hi, this is the first live of the year. We are going to talk about ayahuasca and art. I am talking in English because our guest is the visionary artist Dana Wilcher. There will be other lives in Portuguese. Now I'm waiting for her to come in. Yeah, she's already online. Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm glad we could do this today. It's been a minute since we talked.
Yeah, and I took ayahuasca for in that moment, and you also entered to Costa Rica Retreat, I guess.
Yeah,
So we
yeah,
can really talk more in depth about this topic.
yeah. Wow. So you sat in Brazil,
Yeah,
like where you're okay. How
yeah,
was
I'm in
how was that?
Brazil, in Valinhos. It's close to São Paulo, where I'm here at the moment. And I took ayahuasca here. I always take here.
No worries.
The
What were you saying though? Sorry to jump off on accident.
Yeah, I was saying about that I'm here in Brazil and close to São Paulo, and here we have different approaches about ayahuasca and plant medicine. In our talk, maybe it's better for us to focus about the art and creation, but I would like to hear also about the experience, if because it's all interconnected.
Yeah,
we
yeah, definitely.
as an artist, we kind of we create based on what we see, what we feel,
Hmm.
and all
Yeah,
those things.
yeah.
So
Well, a lot of I also got a kitten, so he's gonna be in
yeah,
this
I
with us.
saw it.
But yeah, I mean, a lot of the inspirations, like for the paintings, and even like for the painting that I just finished, and Monet, and the one that I'm working on now, like both of those visions kind of came to me through plant medicine, through ayahuasca. And
Nice.
it's, I think like different plant medicines and just it's such a beautiful way to just expand your mind and like access different planes and be able to tap into different like visionary states. So yeah, very grateful to plant medicine for like helping me along my artistic journey. It's been like so pivotal for me in that.
Yeah, I can imagine, because you are a visionary artist, so it's very connected with this how can I say, connecting to what is unseen,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
I even wrote down here, for people that don't know what it's visionary art, but in a simple way of explaining is it's visionary art is art that supports that the purpose is to transcend the physical world and portray a wider vision of awareness, including spiritual or mystical themes, or is based in such experiences. So you
Hmm.
had the both experience, because you painted with after having visions with plant medicine, and
Hmm.
also you create a visionary art based on your own inner world.
Hmm.
So I would like to know more about your new series, and how it was to kind of translate that, because you also have already the skills of painting, and for me for example, I have a very visual memory, so a
Hmm.
photographic memory. So when I have in plant medicine or those things, I can see, but I cannot paint that,
Hmm.
because I don't have the skill to translate that
Hmm.
in a painting.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, well, I think it's definitely something I think that just like develops like the more we practice, like with creative people, that's really like all we're doing is we're just like connecting to like these, creative ideas and thoughts and visions and just figuring out in our own ways like how to put that into something concrete. And it made me think of, something you said about like the definition of visionary art is like taking these experiences, things that like transcend this dimension, and figuring out how to bring them into this plane, right? So yeah, so this new series, it's something that I think the first painting started to sort of come to me, and you were asking about like the visionary process or like how that kind of works. So I'll go into that. But it, like, this series first kind of came into my awareness that I was going to be creating it like last year in June. I was doing a few big ceremonies then, and it was like, first, I think it was the first painting, the Feminine Initiation, the one that I just finished, was the first one that came to me. And after that, it was like more of these paintings started to come in, like through ceremonies and just through different things. Like I was starting to get new awarenesses of like, wow, there's kind of a theme that's happening here. Like this series is going to be paintings that are exploring different like initiations that I've gone through within myself within the past couple of years, but really like throughout my entire life, and you know, not just from like plant medicine and that kind of stuff, but it goes a lot deeper, like overcoming and rising through trauma and all kinds of things. So yeah, so it just kind of came in, it just sort of formed itself of like, okay, you're going to be doing a series. Then when I was in Costa Rica in November of this past year, a big reason for that I wanted to go was to, I mean, it was a plant medicine retreat, but then after that, I stayed a little bit longer because I wanted to design more of the series so that I could come back and just really like have it, right? And yeah, it just came to me on that trip. Like the title of the series is Sacred Initiations. And then it was like, I'd gotten downloads for the past like year of different paintings that were going to come through. Right. Nice. And the first one being the Feminine Initiation, and then the one I'm doing now, Shamanic Initiation, which has a little bit more to do with like the process that we go through in like purging and releasing in plant medicine and stepping into kind of new levels within ourselves. So they just started like coming through. I got the download that there would be 12 paintings in this series, so I don't really know what's like gonna happen after.
Very symbolic, that number.
You think so?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It can connect with a very different ideas of what is this number 12.
Yeah, well, and what's so funny is for my whole life, 12 has just been like an important number to me. Like even when I'll be talking about things like, oh, I was walking down the street and I saw like 12 birds, or I saw like 12 of this, or everything is always a 12 for me, and it has been like my entire life. It's just 12. So yeah, I think there's some kind of significance to that number, and yeah, so I'll probably be working on this series. Oh, hi Ryan. That's a friend of mine from Costa Rica. He was at the last Costa Rica retreat as well, the Alaskan shaman.
Thank you, everyone that is watching, and you can participate and ask questions.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he's a great person. But yeah, so you were asking a little bit about like how the downloads or the visions come in for the paintings. So it's always different with these paintings, but usually it's kind of like sometimes it's like it's a little bit slower. Like I'll be getting like bits and pieces of information. Like I'll be, you know, I'll see like a certain aspect of the painting that's how it's supposed to be, you know, how it's supposed to kind of come together.
I was going to tell that because each time we do plant medicine, it's like accessing like a piece of a puzzle. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we see all the image together, but there are other times that it's more like symbols.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And sometimes it sort of needs to develop slowly. Like I have this one painting I think it's going to be like 4th in this new series that I'm doing. It's probably going to be the biggest one. And it was like, I started to receive information about that painting in July when I was in Costa Rica. And then it was like, it just sort of opened up, and then I received like the finished vision of the painting of how it's going to be in November when I went back to Costa Rica. So sometimes it's like a slower evolution, but a lot of times it's like it's this process. It's almost a little bit hard to describe, but it's kind of like the feeling of like, you know, whatever I'm doing, I'll be really present with what I'm doing. Like whether I'm in like a ceremony of some kind, or I'm just in meditation, or I'm like out in the elements. And like one time I was in this rainstorm and I was just present with that. And there was like lightning all around. And then it was like, it's like this one, it's almost like the visions for the paintings. They kind of just, sometimes it feels like they strike me like a bolt of lightning, like literally, where it's like, you know, I'll be like kind of meditating or just really like present and open, and then it's like poof, and then my whole body, like sometimes I'd be like and then it's like I release, and then it's like I see this fully like formed vision of the painting in my mind's eye, and then it's like it just kind of burns itself into my memory until I paint it. So it's kind of like those, like it's like two types of downloads, I'd say. It's like more slow and progressive and like more of an evolution, and then other times it's kind of like a bolt of lightning and it's just like poof, there it is, and it's going to be here until you paint it now.
Like a big insight, or like epiphany or something.
Yeah, just kind of like a big download.
I can resonate with that. And I have I think that ayahuasca and plant medicine, but especially ayahuasca, it works a lot of cellular memory. So I feel like sometimes it's kind of activates something, or things that are very in our bodies, more like, of course in the mind too works a lot, but there are some types of works that are more like being the body, as you said, and sometimes people have visions like, or get out of their bodies, for example. I didn't have that type of experience, like getting out of my body. It was all the times that I took that medicine were more like being my body, but activating memories or ideas or all those things. And also I would like to say that to have that approach, that it's more like an artistic one and visions, I feel like the artist must prepare their body before, because if the person gets too much time of the work to look in the shadows or throw up or do the cleansing, maybe the person will not access the information that will create something. I don't know if I could explain well, but I feel like that
absolutely makes sense. And I can resonate with that. Like in ceremonies, it's like I find myself consistently in this flow of like, usually for me, the first part of the ceremony is like dropping very deeply into my own work, right? It's like dropping really deeply into like, okay, what is present within me, like very, very much present in the body and in like the process of my own like energy, you know, and what's going on with my emotions, and like certain maybe past traumas and triggers and things that I'm working through. And like for me, usually it's like the first part of the ceremony is like the clearing and the healing, and it's getting through a lot of that stuff, because you know, I think for a lot of creative people, like with or without like any kind of plant medicine, it's like in order to access like, you know, our higher creativity and these channels and these visions that can open up for every one of us, it's like we have to open ourselves like to the healing of it, you know, of our own process. Because like if we're blocked and our channels are blocked and we're shut down, then we're not going to be able to really like maybe connect as fully with our creativity. And so usually
if there are so much limitations too, those types of visions might be distorted, or
exactly. Yep. It's like I think of it as like when we have a lot of healing work and a lot of trauma work to do, and we're like, you know, we're also very creative and we're working on our creative expression. It's like if we're not also doing the work to kind of go through and clear like the trauma and the things that we're holding on to, then the best way I could think about it is like, you know, you get this beautiful download of this vision or this thing that you want to create. And then it's like it moves through your being to be expressed and to be grounded into this physical plane. But then it's like it goes through a meat grinder sort of in your body, because there's all these blocks and there's all these projections and these attachments. And And so like going back to what I was saying with the ceremonies, like I'm just so aware of that process at this point that like going into ceremonies and just my own healing work in general is like, okay, go deep into like the healing and the trauma healing that needs to happen and clear that. Because then like in the example of an ayahuasca ceremony, right, it's generally all night. Then it's like the second half of the night, I've done all this deep work and purged in so many different ways, and I've gone, and it's always a wave, right? But then I can come back into the celebration, and then I can like, okay, I've cleared some past life shit, which was a lot of this past retreat for me was past life shit.
I accessed a past life too.
Oh, did you? In this past ceremony?
Yeah. It was more like a confirmation that I set an intention to confirmate, but yeah.
Yeah, it's always fun when the past life memories come back and you're like, okay, it's not like I don't have enough to deal with in this life. Let's now add a few lives onto that. But
yeah,
but it's beautiful.
It's kind of a relief that we have another chance.
You're like, okay, so me being messed up goes back through many lifetimes, not just this one.
Yeah.
I love that. That's so great. But yeah, so I was just saying like
yeah, and about that, that's I will use that information to go to another layer about the topic, because if we have the inner, I would say, if we done the inner work and we know ourselves, we can we can see better if those visions are past life or not, what does it mean? Because we are talking about that because we already had a lot of ceremonies of ayahuasca before, but maybe someone that is watching at this moment and never took a plant medicine. So the person should, how can I say, not put too much pressure that taking ayahuasca will make them create a masterpiece or something. It can help, but it's more like, I don't know. Each person is different, but I felt like saying that too, because I don't know.
Well, and I really feel like thank you for saying that, because I also feel like, you know, what these plant medicines are doing, and like ayahuasca and all the other medicines that we have access to, and mushrooms and, you know, ganja and all of it, is like really what it's there to do is to help us go into our own emotions and our own process, and maybe process some of our own trauma. And really it's like these plant teachers are just here to help us open up within our own being, like within our own emotions and our own traumas, and like unlock certain things. So it's like, you know, you could take ayahuasca a million times and maybe never receive a vision or a download, right? Or you could someone could take ayahuasca one time and they could do the deepest healing of their life, and they could open up like all of these different channels within themselves. But I think it's really dependent on the person's like individual desire to do the healing work, because like, you know, and as you know, it's like ayahuasca it's very deep. It's extremely deep. It's not like I shudder to think of.
Every time I get shocked. There is always a moment where I feel like, wow, this is so deep.
Yep.
I don't have anyone
to
talk about it. Someone, only the people that got access to that can know what is that information, and it's too much that we can transmute to art, or we can work on ourselves too, and be the art of doing that in ourselves.
That exactly leads me back to the point that I was kind of coming around to, of like, all art is it's just our own explorations of, it's like turning ourselves inside out for the world to see, right? So if we are and we all go through like waves and layers of this, I feel, but if we're really like shut down and we're scared of and we're afraid of our own emotions and the things we've been through and like all of those kinds of things, then you know, it might be a little bit harder for us when we turn that inside out. Then it's like we start getting stuck with our creativity and our creative process, and we run into these issues. So I think that's why it's like, for me anyway, and I know probably some other like visionary artists, it's like plant medicines and art do go hand in hand, not just because like, woo, boof, they blast you out to a different dimension. It's actually more so for me, they help me to do the deep healing and clearing that's needed for me to be able to like access my own inner genius, like through all of that healing. And when I'm looking at myself and doing the shadow work and going into the pain and going into the trauma and like having a safe container to do that, then what I turn of that process inside out in the form of art then gets to be more fluid and more expressed, right?
Yeah.
So they do go hand in hand, I feel.
Yeah, it reminds of our last conversation where we talk a little bit about the creative process and about the intention on that, because you work as an artist and you do your paintings and for a living and everything, but there are other approaches in ayahuasca, for example, where people take and after doing the plant medicine, they do a painting, even if they are not former artists. Everyone is an artist, but you know what I mean. They try to express that, and sometimes for the artist to express and transmute something, it's it's I don't know. There are different visions about it. Some people just don't like the art that it's more like how can I say, like expressing a dark feeling through art, for example. And some other arts are more like intentional, high vibe art and everything. And that responsibility is also interesting to be aware of, because the artist is creating something that will be in the house of someone, will bring energy there, and you have all that awareness and intention when you were doing that. So it's
well, very... I think that's a good point to bring up, that sometimes like maybe in like visionary art or spiritual art, like, and it's not always the case, and this translates through like many different facets, I think, of our culture, but it's like, you know, all art that is just of the light, and it's just the light, beautiful, expansive, visionary aspects of like plant medicine and all, you know, these other expansive experiences. But for me anyway, and I don't find that there's anything wrong with that, but I just
me too.
In my art personally, I like to bring in like elements of the light and the dark equally, because it's like it just kind of mirrors again like my own process through these ceremonies of like I told you, like the first probably half of the ceremony is like me just going through some really deep, hard, painful, difficult shit. And then that leads to the lightness of the experience after. And so like for example, in the painting that I just did, the Feminine Initiation painting, and you guys can see that on my profile. But there's so many different, there's so much going on in that painting, but ultimately it's like, it's kind of meshing and bridging the polarities in the two different worlds. So it's like she's connected to like the angelic realm and the seventh dimensional healing temples, and like in her crown there's all this opening up, and then it moves down in the dimensions and it becomes more concrete and more physical. But then also she's holding a rose, and this rose is bleeding. It's this bleeding rose. And when I was painting the blood, I was like, wow, this is pretty jarring. Like I'm painting like blood right now, like damn. But it really just hit me of like, well, that makes it real. Like that makes it's like this visceral connection to our human bodies, because we can like,
and blood is life. So
blood is life. Blood is our, it's blood is life. And so like just in like visionary art, I feel I just love seeing that when artists can pull in like the full spectrum of the experience. Like
Yeah.
do you know Alex Gray?
Yeah, sure.
He is probably my favorite visionary artist and has been for many years. And
Yeah.
other than like everything,
She is more like the visual part and the psychedelic and the
yeah,
layers and everything.
yeah,
The
he
cells
does like
and
diagrammatic depictions of energy. And if you guys haven't checked out Alex Gray, like definitely do that.
yeah.
But something I love about his work is so polarized in the way of light and dark, lightness and darkness. Like in one painting, he'll have it's like, I'm thinking of, I can't remember the name of this painting, but it's a painting of a person who's holding a paintbrush and who's like interacting with their own creativity, right? It's like the way of the artist, and there's like all these angels and guides and this lightness and this beauty to it. But then at the same time, you see there's like gargoyles and demons and like all of these darker aspects. And I love to see that in art, because I feel like that's the kind of thing that most accurately like represents, for me anyway, like the experience of being human, that it's not all light and beautiful visions and we can access that. But I find I can't access it or really enjoy it if I don't go through the darkness, like through my own darkness and my own pain, and like it just goes hand in hand, you know?
Yeah, I agree with you. And when I said that, I remembered, I will give you an example. Last year, we had a very famous art exhibition in Brazil that they have every 2 years. And one of the artists that was there was some native people artists exposing there. And there was a painter. She was a visionary artist. I saw his paintings there because I was in the art exhibitions. And when I looked at, I felt like he wasn't so good. He wasn't in a good, not good, but it was like he wasn't feeling well, because it was very visionary art, but with a very dense things. It was very beautiful, the art. I have on my reels some art of him. It's very beautiful, but you can see that it comes from a very dense and suffering way. And some weeks ago he died. And his paintings still was there. But yeah, I'm sharing that because the type of art looks like a visionary art. So he tapped into some unseen things, but it was very dense. And as an artist, when you see the artwork during a lifetime, you can see those waves, like when the artist it's more passing through something more dense or something. And it's I don't know, I remember about that because it was very I can show the paintings
I would
later,
love to.
so
I would love
but
to
I don't
see
feel
them.
like a bad painting or good painting, but it has a different energy. And as an artist, when you're creating, it can do, you put that energy.
Well, and I resonate with what you said of like it comes in waves, because it's so fascinating to me, like looking back like at the artwork that I created like 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Like I can see where I was at in those certain stages, and it's fascinating to me to like witness the evolution of that and to really see like where I was at and how that was being manifested in the work. And like for example, I so about 5 years ago was like kind of the beginning of my spiritual awakening. I had a lot of traumatic things happen in my life, and a lot of things just broke down.
5 years ago.
Okay,
kind of,
yeah.
2016.
yeah, around there for me as well. And it was interesting because it was like I saw that manifested in my artwork, where like before I was doing these like realistic drawings and paintings of women and children and like very, very realistic, very emotional, very realistic pieces. And then as I was going through this spiritual awakening where it was like, boof, my kundalini was blasting open and I was remembering a lifetime's worth of trauma and I was like awakening my psychic senses and all these things were shifting in my life like all at once. It was like I just needed this unconventional form of expression that I was used to. So I completely strayed away from any kind of realism. And I was just doing like abstract art, like expressive, emotional art, like just listening to music. And now I teach that in workshops, teaching people how to just tune into that. But it's fascinating because I'll even look back in like my social media, and if you guys were to scroll back far enough, you could probably witness this evolution. But then it was like, you know, during that time I was very depressed and I was processing a lot of emotions and I was in therapy and I was working through things. And the art is kind of like these explosions of color and just, it's like me expressing these things. And then it was like, as I started to heal, then slowly I see it now when I go back and look at the art. It's like the realistic elements started to come back into play, and I would do like an abstract painting with a face or an angel or something like that. And then it just continued to evolve, like as my healing evolved, and you know, doing this deep work like with plant medicine and just like all the other like healing modalities I dove into, like then it was like, okay, we have this ability, these tools to express energy and emotion in an abstract way and also in a realistic way. And now where I'm at is like integrating my spirituality and opening that up. So then it's like it all is now starting to really come together like within the past year. And so yeah, so it just reminded me of that, of like what you were saying is like, we as artists, I think we go through periods, and you think about like Picasso's blue period, right?
Yeah.
And different artists go through stages, and it's all just, the art is just a reflection of what's going on inside of you. So you can see so clearly what someone is going through by what they're creating, and it's beautiful. It's all perfect. Like everyone is, you're gonna find people who like who love that and connect to that because that's where they're at, right? So yeah, it's powerful.
A lot. And I see your new face. It's I see that you always had that feminine empowerment, but I feel like the creations that you do are very feminine and very tap into the feminine side. And it's a moment in the world where women are speaking up more, are being listened to, are being seen. So it's very important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's always been a big part of my work. Like even when I was younger and in high school, I was always drawing like women and goddesses and children, and now like a big theme in my work is feminine embodiment and expression. And to me, it's really about like, I mean, it's so layered, but it's like, I personally feel that we need more of a balance of this beautiful, expressed and expressive feminine on the planet, because that's not just manifested in humans, that's manifested as the earth. Like I was really asking myself, like, why I create or want to create the art that I do. And at the very end of everything, it came back to the earth, of like supporting the evolution of the earth. Like I'm here to help the planet. And my way of doing that is helping to bring about like this rise of the feminine, because the feminine is the embodiment of the earth and of the earth mother. And so there's going to be a lot of themes in this series of like feminine embodiment, but also healing from sexual trauma and healing from different aspects of like repression that women go through. And like the last painting, it's called Feminine Initiation, because it's talking about the initiation that I went through, like in my own femininity and like in my own explorations of like my priestesshood, my medicine womanhood. But also it's like she's kind of standing in as this embodiment of the priestess and of the goddess to help other women to activate that within themselves, and men too, because we all have those energies. But for a lot of people, and myself included, like they can be kind of dormant, and they can be repressed and smushed down. And so yeah, so that's like a big focus of my work, is to help kind of like wake up and activate these certain energies, to ultimately help the earth.
Yeah, and you're doing that beautifully.
Thank you.
Yeah, I do believe that art can heal people, and also plant medicine, but plant medicine is not for everyone.
Oh
But
yeah.
art is. And yeah, and thank you. I have more things to say, but let's keep it short in this conversation.
Yeah, we could probably keep going forever. And now my kitten is starting to destroy things, so.
Yeah, the kitten is.
Watch that.
So yeah, thank you again for this. And
yeah, thank you for bringing me on. It's always fun to do these lives and to catch up. And yeah, thank you so much for everything. I appreciate it.
Me too. And looking forward to see your paintings, your new series too. And if you are watching, please follow her, see her work.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Have a great evening.
All right, sister. You too. I'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.